Welcome to another episode of Livecoding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. Tonight is an extra special episode because we have a friend of mine from Germany. His name is Semjon, and we're going to be live coding together. We're calling this session Buddy Rabbits, or Live Coding with Buddy Rabbits, and tonight's focus we're going to do an intro to CI, continuous integration, CD, continuous deployment with Travis CI. And Semjon's going to be walking us through basically how to get this all set up and working with Travis. So before we start that, let's just say hi to Semjon. How are you doing today, man?
Hi everyone, I'm doing fine, thanks.
Excellent, cool. So, who are you?
So, I'm a DevOps engineer. That's basically what I do. And I try to automate as many things as possible in our department.
Okay. Why would I want to do something like that? Or why do we need that in development these days?
So, let's get straight to it. What is DevOps? So, DevOps is from developer and operations. It's just an acronym, just a slammed together word. And it's based on agile software development. So on fast release cycles instead of the waterfall model of the old days, I would say.
Okay.
So, yeah, basically DevOps tries to minimize the friction between the developer and the operations. So the ones writing the codes are also responsible for the deployment of the code. Excellent. And if team sizes are great enough, there's an extra department that just concentrates on the DevOps aspect and gets the teams to work together.
Cool. Excellent. Well, that sounds really useful in a lot of situations. So it kind of takes the guesswork out of managing your repo with testing automation and deployment automation and all that good stuff. So you can just focus on the development aspect of it and not so much of like worrying about if you're going to goof up something on the master branch of your repo or whatnot.
Yeah, so in DevOps, it is really important to have automated tests, and if it's necessary, even have manual tests in quality assurance or QA department, just to ensure that the software is running good. Yeah. And because of the rapid development cycles, we want to have automated tests. To have as most tests automated instead of manually, so they can be tested on every commit.
Cool. So are there any downsides to continuous integration, continuous deployment at all?
Direct downsides, I don't see any. So it might be difficult to get started because it is based on agile development. So if your company still uses waterfall model, it might be difficult to get people used to the faster release cycles. Gotcha. And getting things set up. But once they are set up and everything's automated, it should work like a charm.
Cool. That sounds awesome. All right, so what are we going to be looking at today? What are we going to be using?
So we are first talking about the tools we are going to use. So everything in DevOps or CI/CD is based on a version control system. We are using Git because it's the best integrated version control instead of Mercury or Subversion, for example.
True.
Git is just has a far broader reach.
Right.
We are going to talk about Travis CI, and we are going to talk about serverless with Now.SH.
Cool. And there's this image that you provided to us for the stream as well to kind of like show the process of kind of the cycle of DevOps. And can you kind of walk us through how that works and where Travis CI would fit into that?
So we see both sides, so the development side and the operation side. And let's start with the planning phase. So we, in Agile or Scrum, we have these sprints that we have all our tickets, and we want to make these features in this sprint. This is basically the planning phase.
Cool.
After that, we create the code. Then we verify that the code we created is working properly. Then we are going bundle everything up, that the code isn't just code, but an actual app.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go over to the operation side. We are going to release the project and deploy everything. We are going to configure our infrastructure, and then we are going to monitor it. So we are going to check if there are any downtimes or unexpected bugs while it is running. And those go back into the planning phase as kind of feedback. So what does the developers have to work on to make the application better?
Cool. Well, it sounds really helpful in a lot of different ways. Well, now that we have kind of a basic understanding of what DevOps is and what we're going to be doing, should we get started a little bit? So, the next thing on the to-do list is to write a simple API or Express API.
Actually, before we do that, let's talk just a bit more about Travis CI.
Okay.
In the DevOps stages, Travis CI will take over the verify, package, and release stages. So we verify with our CI, continuous integration, with tests.
Okay.
Then the packaging is almost done at the same time as the releasing, which is the continuous deployment aspect of CI/CD.
Gotcha.
And those three steps are taken over by Travis CI. If you're new to Travis CI, there might be something that might confuse you because there are two domains, travisci.org and travisci.com. So in the old days, so pre-2018, Travis CI had the glorious idea of having a free version and a pro or paid version.
Yeah.
And all the free and public repositories would be hosted by travisci.org, and all the professional and private repositories would be run by travisci.com. In March was it March or May? I don't know. They decided that they didn't want the overhead of two domains and two separate build systems, so they decided to go to travisci.com for every project.
Cool. So for anybody getting started in Travis CI now, the right link to go to would be the travisci.com domain name, correct?
Yes, it is.
Cool. And so back to what you were saying before that. So basically you were saying that Travis CI will take over during the verify, the package, and the release phase by verifying that all the tests or all the code that was pushed past all the tests written, it'll package it up into a nice little repo distribution kind of thing, and then it'll release it to wherever it's being hosted to at that point.
Yep.
Am I understanding that fully?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Excellent. Well, is there anything else that we should get or that we should know before we get started?
Not really. So we can just get started.
All right. So
do you have opened VS Code?
Yes.
So, as I said earlier, everything is based on Git. So the first command we are going to issue is git init. This will initialize our Git repository, and we now have an empty repository in the directory structure we are currently in.
Cool.
So now we will create, we need to initialize npm. So it is just npm init. And just to not have the complete questionnaire, we should npm init-y. So just control C out of it and do npm init-y.
npm init-y.
So we have all our presets already there.
Cool.
So we can look at the package JSON. It has the name intro CI/CD. The description is, well, not the best. So maybe we should change that to introduction to CI/CD.
Cool.
We have our main file, which would be index.js, and the default script is we have no test specified. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the index.js file.
Okay. So in the root folder?
Yeah, just in the root directory. This makes many things easier to handle when we do it in the root directory instead of a separate subdirectory, because Travis CI just looks in the root directory for the package JSON and the start script.
Gotcha. So will it still, can you still use Travis CI with stuff that's in kind of like a nested subfolder or whatnot? Or does it need to be kind of in the, everything need to be in the root folder that has the package JSON, index.js, and the Travis.yaml?
It is easier to have at least the package JSON and the root directory, and then if you really want, you could have a source folder with all the important files, and then just chain load in the package JSON to instead of in the root folder index.js the main file as source/index.js. It wouldn't be much of a difference. But it gets messy if you have mono repo. So if you have two different apps in the same repository.
Gotcha. So like a client side and a server side kind of thing going on in the same repository?
Yep. Okay. That is possible to set up Travis CI that way, but it's you need to write these scripts manually.
Right.
And that's
a little more advanced for this stream, but it sounds interesting. It sounds like everybody really that works with Travis really likes it, so I can imagine that there's tons of reasons why that is the case. All right, cool. So let's
actually write the index JSON, but before that we need to add the package we want to have for our web server, and that would be Express.
All right.
So we have npm install Express. And this might take just a second or a minute.
Whoa.
It was a second, okay. And I'll just go into the README and check off some things that we have already done.
All right.
We have initialized Git, we have initialized npm, we added Express. Now we actually need to write an API.
Yep.
And for that, you can follow me into the index.js.
All right.
We'll write, we want to require Express. And we want to have our app, which is just Express invoked as a function. And then we can actually just create our first route, which would be the /route. And create our handling function, which would take the request and the
response.
What is it called? Response object.
Yep.
We'll use an ES6 error function because we are running the LTS version of Node, which is 10.15, I think, and it has all the ES6 and ES17 features already.
Cool.
And now what are we going to do? We are making a quite simple API which sums two integers. So we consum is parseInt for rec.param.a.
Okay.
Plus parseInt. Oh, I need to actually do the correct thing. rec.param.b. So
and those are going to come through the A and the B parameters are going to come through via the request object. Correct.
Yep, it looks like this, and this would return sum equal to 5 plus 4 is 9.
Yep.
This took longer than I wanted to, but okay.
And parseInt will just take that string number that's a string and turn it into an integer or a number.
Yeah, right, because my first test was just vector.param.a plus vector.param.b, but in JavaScript, if you
you get
plus
49.
2 strings, it would be concatenated and would be
54.
54. So I learned that the hard way. And now we need to send back an object, and we'll just send back an object with sum in it.
Cool.
So that is basically what we are doing. This is a simple preview, and now we want to actually start the server, and that would be app.listen. The first argument in that function is the port we want to listen on.
Whoop. 3000.
It's over 3000. And then we are going to give it a callback function with no arguments.
Whoop.
And just say that we want to console.log listening on port 3000.
$300. Man. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still doing that thing with the double dots.
Yep.
This time around, but that's alright. Alright, so we got a really basic Express app going so far, and let's give it a start.
npm start.
I think we need to write that script
it's missing
still.
a start script. Okay, yeah, I forgot that. Let's go back to the package.json.
Alright.
And I'll just define start as node.index.js. And yep, now we can actually run it again.
Alright.
You won't see the result because it's on my local machine and you don't have the access rights to the port 3000. But if I go to my local host on port 3000, without any arguments, it gives back some null. And if I do a equals 4 and b equals 5, it still gives back null.
So
there's somewhere a mistake. I think it's not rec.param dot something else. Is it rec.query? I think yes. Let's try this. Instead of in the index.js, instead of rec.param.a, it is rec.query.a. I hope that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And yep, it is a query.
Okay. So
now we have an sort of API running, and any seasoned developer will see that we have 2 times the same port running here.
Yeah.
And that's just bad practice. So we'll create a new variable to hold that information. And we'll just we'll paste it here, and here we'll use a JavaScript template string to actually have that port filled out here.
Mm-hmm. And then do we want to set also with the port not just for localhost, but if we're running it in production?
So many deployments, for example Heroku or Now.SH, set an environment variable for the port on which they want the Node app to run, and we can access that variable with process.env, and the variable that is set is port. What happens if it is not set? For example, if I try to look at it, it will say the environment variable port is not defined. So it will give back undefined in JavaScript, but we can give it a default value of 3000. So if this value is undefined, null, or false, and we do a binary bitwise OR operation in JavaScript, it will take the second value, so the port 3000 as default value.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Cool. So there's a fallback for if there's no value for the process.mven.port. Makes sense.
Okay, now
All right.
everything is set up.
Cool.
We can test it with npm start. If I give it no port or no environment variable with port, it still listens on port 3000. And if I actually set port to, I don't know, 80, it should listening on port 80.
Cool.
So that is working.
Excellent. Looks nice.
So let's go back to the README and tick off write API.
All right. Cool. So we got a simple Express app going now that just is listening for requests on whatever port we specify. And so how are we going to test this? Are we just going to test with this little logic line you wrote here with the...
Yeah, we are going to do that. But before we can actually add the test packages and go into testing, we need to refactor this a bit more.
Okay.
Because right now, it automatically starts the app on the local web server, and we don't want that if we just want to test things out. We just want to have the application logic, which is all the routes that it generates. So what we'll do is create a new file, which is app.js. And we'll just take everything from index.js that is above port.
Okay.
Just cut it and paste it into app.js. And at the end of app.js, we are going to... Are you on the file?
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Okay. We are going to export it with the ES5 export syntax, which is module.export equal to app. Because we have defined app here, we have done the transformation on the object, and then we are going to export it. And now we can just go to our index.js file and import app, which is just const app equals require. I need to type it actually, and we are going to require in app. So now we can test it manually, which would be just running npm start, and it's still working.
Cool.
So now we have refactored it to actually run tests. We are going to use two packages for the automatic testing. One is Jest, which is a testing utility for Node apps. It has the testing built in assertion library and even code coverage and some other features, mocking of databases and snapshot testing for UIs, which are really helpful. We'll just use the test and the assertion library for this. And we are going to use Supertest, which is a neat little program based on Super Agent to test, well, all kinds of APIs, and it works well with Express. So it is npm install -D for save dev or save it as development dependency, and then Jest and Supertest. Just all in one command.
Do I have to do a double ampersand?
No, just separated by a space.
Like that?
Yep, that's it.
Excellent.
So we are using that as development dependencies because they are not part of the finalized product, and they are just for testing, for the development of the app.
Gotcha. And so they won't be included in the distribution build of this app if we were to like build it?
Yes.
It's just for the development side of it.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And that keeps package sizes to a minimum. Okay, they have installed, and we can actually start writing tests. And for that, we are going to create app.test.js. The way Jest knows which files to test is it looks at the extension, and it just says we want everything that is ends on test.js. It will run the tests. So we are going to bring in first Supertest, and we know request. We'll name it request. You'll see why in a moment.
Okay.
Which is require.
Oops. Hold on 1 second.
Supertest.
Sorry. Give me 1 second. I gotta fix my screen really quick. Sorry.
Okay.
There we go. All right, go for it.
Okay. Now we are going to bring in our app, which is just like in the index.js. It is require./app.
Right.
And now we can start writing our app. So we are going to describe a test. We'll call the test home route works or something like that, and it will be a function. Well, that was unattended.
So I've never written a test before like this, so can you break this down just maybe an abbreviated version of exactly what we're doing? So it says describe home route works. This home route works, does that mean anything to the testing suite, or is that just the human side of it?
It does not. It is just the human side. So if we then start the test script,
right,
it will group first by the describe thing. You will see that because the next thing we are going to do is it. And it should, for example, it should return sum for integers, which is, which is a description of what it's doing.
Right.
And then our second test would be it should return null for non-integers.
Okay.
And these it functions, they take as first argument a friendly name for the human developer, and as a second function it will, you see it, callback.
Okay.
Which is the actual test that is running. So we are going to write that, and that's it. Now we can just say that we want const response is equal to request. We are going to request our app, and we are going to get the route / with the parameters a equal to 3 and b equal to 5, whatever.
All right.
And
so const response equals request, pass in app, and then we call a. So is this get, is that HTTP request, or is that specific to Jest?
This is specific to Supertest.
Or Supertest.
Which yeah, it will just run a get request on the path we specified. So we specified the path / and the query URL query parameters a and b.
Gotcha. So that's just a get request.
We want to have a get request instead of a post or put or patch or head or whatever HTTP verbs there are.
Yeah.
We just defined a get handler in Express, and we are just going to use it. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what do we expect? We expect the response body to equal an object with the sum, and the sum of 3 and 5 is 8. So this is not working right now because the request part is asynchronous. And so we need to actually await this thing, and with node 10 we can actually use ES17 syntax with async await.
Oh, cool.
And this way we are defining a async function. Jest will handle async functions really well, and then we can just request the app and await the response, and then response.body is actually defined. Okay, now we are going to
sorry.
basically
If we were gonna, if this wasn't, so you said this has to be asynchronous or whatever, and if we weren't running it as asynchronous, it would return undefined because it doesn't have a chance to parse it yet.
What it would do is a response would be a promise, and the promise wouldn't be resolved when the next line runs, which is a problem because we want to. Then we would have to request app.get and then .then to have the promise be resolved. But I think it's just cleaner and easier to have the ES17 syntax.
Gotcha. Cool. Sounds good.
Okay, we are going to copy this code and we are going to pass in non-integers. So A is A and B is U, and we are expecting this to be null.
Okay.
Which would be our two tests. So now we've written some tests. They are not especially cool because our API isn't cool, but we can just show how tests would be written and how they work. Now we need to go back to the package.json. And you see in line 8 the test script. It still says test specified. And we'll just say we want to have Jest run. And now if we type in npm test, you can do that. It runs Jest, and it has found the test.js file. And we have an error.
Ran all test suites. npm error test failed. See details above.
So for some reason, it didn't work with the await. That is unfortunate.
Let's take a look.
So what is happening here? I'll just cheat for a moment. I have actually
it's because because we're missing the async keyword up here.
Oh, right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah, it is an asynchronous function, and that's why await was not defined as we had it as synchronous function. Okay.
Cool.
Now we can run npm test again.
Let's see if that gives us a different result.
And it's running, and it's running.
Cool.
Okay.
Boom.
So now you see what we've done is with describe, we have defined a test suite. You see that test suites, we have one test suite.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually has two tests that is run, and those are the its. So it should run, it should return some for integers, and it should return null for non-integers, and both of them passed.
Gotcha.
So those are our tests.
That seems really, yeah, I mean, it seems really straightforward when it's, after you see it kind of like put in front of you. But I can imagine that this would get pretty complex for some advanced apps.
Yeah, it would get pretty complex. Especially, this is basically a unit test. We are testing if the one unit we have, that is the home route, is expecting as we think in isolation. So it doesn't depend on any other routes or any other code things. So we just need to test that.
Yeah.
If we have integration tests, so tests that require other components or whatever to be run, it would get complex pretty fast.
Right, yeah. But this is nice because it's sitting by itself, and it's you know, it's completely independent of itself, so we can run unit tests against it. No problem. All right, cool. So what's the next step in this whole process then? So we got a test that's we wrote, and it's running, and everything's passing. So what's the next step that we're gonna take?
So the next thing is to initialize Travis CI.
All right.
let's look back into the README and just tick some things off. We have written tests.
All right.
So, we need to push to GitHub, of course. So you can create your GitHub repository.
Okay.
And give me access rights to push to it.
All right, let's get this just a little bit bigger so I can see those buttons. Need to make a new repository. Oh, not import. New repository. We're going to call this intro to CI/CD. And do we want to initialize this with a README or just empty?
No, completely empty.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, we would have some merge conflicts because we already have a readme.md.
Right.
And that's just
Okay. So we got a repository going now. So
now you can go to settings in the repository and add me as collaborator. In the sidebar on the left, you have collaborators. I think you need to type in your password again.
Yep.
And then you can add me as a collaborator, and then I can push to the repository.
All right. And you have an invite link sent now.
Okay. So I'll just check on GitHub. And intro to CI/CD. Accept invitation. So now I can just copy the address.
Cool.
We are going to add a new remote. So if you want to look in the VS Code terminal, I'm going to add a new remote repository. I'll call it origin, and it has this address.
Okay.
And now we are going to commit our work. But before we do that, we really want to create a new file, a git ignore, because we don't want to actually commit the node modules.
Yeah.
Because those are many files, and we don't want them in version control.
Oh, interesting. When we were using the live share plugin and you blocked node modules, it removed it from my file tree.
Oh,
that's okay. Interesting. It doesn't just like blank it out, it just takes it away completely.
Oh, interesting. Okay, now we see that we don't have the node modules in there, which is good, and we can actually git add. We are not writing atomic commits or anything because reasons. It would take far too long to write normal commit messages.
Yeah, it's not crucial that we track every little movement of this project.
Yeah. So now, what have we done?
We set up a basic...
actually, first commit.
Yeah. Okay, that works. But we did, so you set up a basic Express app. We pulled in Jest and Supertest, and we wrote a test. Yeah, we have a route going in the app or whatnot. Testing it and it's passing. Now we're pushing to GitHub. Recap. Yep.
To origin, and we want to push the master branch. And doing that, it will just take a second. And if we go to GitHub now, we should see all the files.
All right, let's give this a refresh. And they are all there.
Nice.
We have a really nice README too. Nice job on that.
Okay, now the interesting part, Travis CI.
Okay.
So to initialize Travis CI, it doesn't really take much. We will create a .travis.yaml.
Okay. So do we need to pull any packages in for Travis CI, or do we have to?
Nope.
Nothing at all. Okay.
So if you have authorized Travis CI, will you create the file? Well, I'll talk a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so if you sign up for Travis CI, all repositories you have, and what it does is setting up webhooks. So every time you push, it will send a webhook to Travis CI, and Travis CI will check if it has a .travis.yaml file in the repository, and if it has in the root directory of the repository, it will run it.
Okay.
So okay, let's go into the Travis.js YAML.
Okay.
And we are just going to say language. Yeah, that's right. We have written it in Node.js. And we want to say which version we want to have. And let's use, I don't actually know if it's stable or, let's try stable first.
Okay.
Or if it's current. So you can have here many versions. So for example, you can have 10.15. And now both stable and 10.15 will be built and tested.
Okay.
So now we can git add again. We'll just with git status check what we have actually done. We have modified readme and travis.yaml, and we can commit and add Travis CI configuration. So you will notice that we haven't defined anything that Travis CI should run. Because Travis CI by default for Node.js runs npm test. So it will build everything. So it will just do npm install, and then it will run npm test. And that's the default behavior of Travis CI. That's why we don't need to actually do anything here.
So where's this running at then? Is this running on their server, or are they pulling the repo and then testing it on their servers, and then they're just sending back a good to go kind of thing?
Yeah, you can open travis-ci.com.
Okay.
To see the current pipeline progress. travis-ci.com.
Sign up with GitHub. I need to probably just sign in, or I can just authorize really quick.
So, and the nice thing with travis-ci.com is that you that the pipeline will run at the exact same URL as the GitHub URL would be. So for you, it would be /sharpie360/intro-to-ci/cd.
Okay.
So you can just replace GitHub with Travis-CI. And then you'll have the right Travis CI URL.
All right, so I just set up the repo for Travis CI through here now.
Okay.
And so what's the next step?
So I don't know if it has actually I think because we have pushed before you have set up travis-ci.com, it might have not gotten the webhook that it has a .travis.yaml file. So we will just change something, for example, configure Travis CI for CI, and we'll just make a new commit.
Okay.
So git add, git commit -m advanced readme.md, and we'll just push that. And if we now watch the Travis CI, it should in the build history in just a moment show that it has a new task. That is one.
Yep.
Okay, so it has queued the task. You see that #1 is created.
Yep.
And after it is created and actually run, it will show up in the current tab of the page.
Okay.
We can check the logs that are generated. So because this is run on their servers, if there is a high load of test runners actually running, it could take a few seconds to get queued and started for the job.
Okay.
So you see we have two build jobs because we have two node versions we have set up. So we have node version stable and node version 10.15.
Yep.
And let's just go to stable. And we'll see that we got some worker information that is collapsed. We have build system information that is collapsed. We don't care about those. And we'll actually see what it's doing. So it has cloned our repository. And you see that you could have submodules or something else enabled. And it won't clone farther than depth 50. Which is 50 commits in the past.
Okay.
We are going to use branch master, and then NVM, for those who don't know, is the node version manager. And with that, you can just install any version, so it installs stable. And then you can see the stable version would be 11.6. You have npm 6.5, and who cares about the node version manager version? So, and you see that running npm CI is the same as running npm test. And we see that all tests have passed, just like the local tests.
Where is that at? Oh, so one passed and then
Just
the other one passed. I see. That makes sense. It's a lot to take in but it looks cool. So
this is the default behavior of Travis CI. It just tests if everything is working.
So everything is good to go, and everything is passed, and it's passed for both builds, the stable and the 10.15.
Yes, right.
All right, cool. So that's a good thing. What do we do next then?
So the next thing would be deployment.
So excellent deployment, and then so when this runs and it gives us, the thumbs up to go ahead and it says all of our tests have passed, is that gonna automatically trigger the deployment then?
Yes, so we need to now specify how we want it deployed.
Okay.
And after that, if one test fails, it will stop right there. It will run the other tests, but it will not queue the deployment task.
Gotcha.
So now we will actually go back to the README.
Okay.
Deployment to now. So would you just open Now.SH on your web?
Sure. All right. Now.sh. That's the Zeit deployment.
Zeit.co/now. It's a pretty neat tool, and if you watched any of W3CJ's live streams, you will see it from time to time again. And it's really nice, I think. And we are going to use it in our community app project.
Mm-hmm.
And for that we will first create our configuration.
Cool.
So how the Now CLI works is by being an npm npm CLI tool.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are going to do is npm install -d for safe dev, because it is a development dependency.
Okay.
And we are going to install now.
And this is the CLI tool for deploying to Now.
Correct. Yes.
All right, and I'm just finishing up the linking up my GitHub to this project. All right.
Okay. So what we are going to do now is configuring a now.json file,
Okay.
which shows all the information that Now needs. So we, new file, now.json.
Cool.
And in there, we will, it is a JSON object. We are going to specify the version, which is 1. They have a new version, which is 2, but it's a bit more to configure. And I don't want to actually configure that much right now. We are going to say that we want it to be public, so everyone can see the source. And what do we need else? Let's check the Now documentation. So at the bottom of the README, there's is a link to the Now documentation.
Gotcha.
And we are going to look into, I think, deployment. No, where's the configuration? Oh, is it there?
Now CLI static deployments.
Yeah, static deployments configuration. I think it is.
All right, public.
So no, we don't want a static deployment because it's a Node.js deployment. But I don't know where the configuration is. It was too long ago that I actually looked at the documentation. Huh.
Node.js. There we go. It's there is a section in the menu just under static deployments for dynamic deployments, and they have a Node.js section.
But it doesn't seem to have the deployment information I want. So the Now configuration. Oh, under is it? Yeah, it's if you scroll just down a bit more features, then you have a configuration.
Oh, I see.
And
Gotcha.
there you have the complete configuration management configuration reference. So we want now we need to jump back and forth again between those two. We want to set a name.
Okay.
Intro to CI/CD would be the name that is prepended to all deployments. We have set the version. We have set the name. We are going to set an alias, which would be if it gets deployed. Alias. It gets that name, so intro.ci to CI/CD. And the full URL would then be intro to CI/CD I don't know if it's Now.SH or some other thing. We'll see in the deployment log.
Yeah. Interesting.
So we can't have comments in JSON because JSON doesn't support comments. And just look through the reference manual for the configuration just to see if there's anything interesting. And there is not. Okay, so we have set up Now. Let's go to the Travis YAML.
Okay.
We will remove the stable version because it would be confusing to have two build jobs running at the same time. And we are going to make a new deploy section. So what we are going to do is we will set a provider. And here we have the choice for many things. So by default, it has Heroku or Google App Engine, or I think you can deploy to something from Amazon Cloud. It has many providers, but it doesn't have a Now provider, so we will need to write it ourselves.
Okay.
We are going to have a provider called script, and the script that should be run is npm run deploy. So we are in the package.json will define a deploy script that that will deploy it. So deploy, and we will say now. And because we want it to have to be interactive, non-interactive, that way we need to specify a now token. And we want it to also alias it to the domain we defined in the now.json. And that will also work with the now token. So that is our deploy script that will be run on Travis CI.
Okay.
We need 2 more keys to this to the Travis CI YAML to ensure that it's running correctly, and those are we need to set a skip cleanup to be true, because otherwise it will uninstall the Node app and just deploy without actually having that installed.
Okay.
Because of some CI/CD defaults that are based on some principles that that CI/CD has. For example, to never rebuild, but to promote a thing. So if you have different environments, for example, staging and a production environment, you don't, if you merge from staging to the master branch to the production environment, you don't want it to actually build a new, but to promote the current build to the production environment. And with the skip cleanup, we can just use the thing, the app we have actually built in the test stage. And we are going to define that we only want it to run on branch master.
Gotcha.
Because if somebody makes a pull request, they would override the our deployment.
Yeah, we don't want that happening.
Yeah, so only on branch master.
So if we were to merge that pull request into the master, then it would run, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. That's good to know. Cool.
So now we need to actually set the now token.
Okay.
In Travis CI. And the way we do that is with the Travis CLI. So I have Travis CLI installed. I can just say Travis version, and it will tell me which version of the CLI I have installed.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can make, for example, list all the environment variables that are set. And it will ask which repository I am using. And it has detected by the remote origin that it is Sharpie 360 intro to CI/CD. Is this correct? Yes, it is. So I will just press enter. And it will say that, oh, yes, of course. There's just a slight thing we need to know because of the 2 versions of Travis CI. We have travisci.org and travisci.com.
Oh.
And we are going to use travisci.com, so that's why we need to add the --pro.
And this was what we were talking about at the beginning when you were specifying between the difference and how it could be confusing for somebody getting started, and what this is and what you need to do in order to alleviate that headache. correct?
Yes.
All right, cool. So it's just Travis env list -- pro.
Yep. And I see that I don't have access to the environment variables for your Travis CI.
Uh-oh.
That's interesting.
Do I need to install the Travis CLI?
No, we are going to oh, where can I don't actually know how to get access to another one's Travis CI environment variables. I'll just test something. Oh, okay, so that works. I can add it through the web GUI. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I am going to set the now token, and because I don't want that to be public, I will just set it myself.
Gotcha.
Just to be on the safe side. Okay, I will just generate a new token. And yeah, so I want to go to my profile page, generate a new token, create. We'll call it intro CI CD, create token. I'm going to reveal the value, and I'm going to set the now token, and I have added it. And if you now see in the web GUI of travisci.com, you will see in the settings that there's an environment variable now token, and it has a secret value.
Where is that at?
At the Travis CI,
Yep.
in the tab settings, or is it under more options?
Oh, here we go. There we go.
Settings. Yeah.
New token or now
there you
token. Gotcha.
Yeah. So you have basically two types of environment variables, secret ones and public ones.
Mm-hmm.
So if I enter, for example, A and 1 as secret, you will see them as secret. And if I do B and 2, but check display value and build log, it will actually save it as clean, as
Plain
clear text. Yeah. So we don't need neither A nor B. We'll just need the now token. And if we haven't got any thing, we npm1 deploy. It is a script. We skip the cleanup. It is on branch master. We should be able to deploy. So we have added quite a few things. Status, get status. We have added the deploy section on Travis CI. We have created the Now.JSON configuration file, and we have added the Now package as development dependency. So we will just make a commit and add cd to Now.sh. And we can now just push that and check the Travis CI logs when the worker has started.
All right, cool. And it's running right now, or it's about to start.
Now it's actually running.
There we go.
So you see on line 417 that it's setting the environment variable, and it will say it is a secure environment variable, so that we don't actually see the value.
417 on what exactly?
On the build log of the job 2 on Travis CI.
How do I pull up the build log?
It is just on the current tab. So if you, I don't know if you need to refresh the page.
Oh, okay. I see. That is the build log.
Yep. So, and you'll see it will just run npm test, and it did.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see that it's preparing the deploy and deploying the application. And now we'll complain that we are using the old version of the platform because we are using version 1. But as I explained earlier, I don't want to have the version 2 because I think it's much more complex than version 1.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what it's doing now has installed the has actually installed the app, and it has created an image, and it's now trying to guess how many cores or RAM it needs, so it can do auto scaling.
Gotcha. I see now. I was looking. The log was hidden from me at first. So I was missing all of this up until just a few seconds ago.
Oh,
I couldn't see it very well. The button was kind of hard to see. So maybe we could run it one more time just so we have it on screen to see the start to finish of their end on now, or on Travis CI's end.
Yep. But if you now go to the build log and expand deploying application, have you done that?
Deploying application.
Yeah, you can expand it.
Where is it? I'm sorry.
At the bottom of the build log.
At the bottom of the build log. Maybe it's because I'm looking at this on like a weird screen, like a weird screen size. So,
so you have the job log.
Yep.
So you're on current job log, and then you scroll down until you see installing deploy dependencies, preparing deploying application.
Gotcha.
And there you just expand it that you can see the actual output of the deploying application. There
we go.
And it has created intro to CI CD urwkrzft.now.sh.
Mm-hmm.
And on the line 501, you see that intro to CI/CD.now.sh. It was aliased, so you can actually copy that, go on the browser, and you'll see that sum is 0 because A and B are undefined. And if you enter just some random numbers for A and B, you'll see that the sum is returned. So we have continuously deployed our application.
All right, so I'm at the deployed site right now, and if I do $A = 5, and then how do I separate the queries?
With an ampersand.
And B = 6, we should get return to us the sum of 11, right?
Yep, correct.
And look at that, it's right there, sum of 11. That's awesome.
So I think this is...
So what happens if we do A really quick? So if we have A = 5 and B = A. and that's going to return null because that's also the logic that we set up in our Express app as well. So it looks like both things are working just fine.
Yep. So we can go back to our README and tick off some more things.
All right.
So we have configured.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we have configured now the now JSON. We haven't actually run the Travis CLI, but we have set up the environment variables in the GUI.
Mm-hmm.
So we are done with the deployment to now.
Cool.
One more feature I wanted to show is add a few more tests. So we are going to make a static, which is a linting tool for,
what are we gonna make?
ECMA.
I'm sorry, you cut out from the lag.
Oh, sorry. So we are going to add more tests.
Okay.
So instead of running one test, that would be the default with Travis CI without having anything defined. We will define the tests manually. And for that, I think ESLint would be the best.
Cool.
Because ESLint is pretty easy to handle. So you can add it as a development dependency.
Okay. So just npm I ESLint.
Dash capital D for development dependency. Yep.
Dash capital D.
While it is installing, we go into the package.json and add the lint script, which is just ESLint for now. We'll need to configure it just in a moment. But we want to now run ESLint init. So what we do is run npm lint, and if we do the double dash, it reads command line argument or reads arguments from the command line after it. So if I want to run ESLint init, I will have to run lint double dash and then the argument, which is double dash init.
Okay.
npm one lint. It's actually a one command. So we are going to use the popular style guide. We are going to use Airbnb. We are not using React. We want to have it as JavaScript. It should install all the plugins for Airbnb.
I like that this install prompt for the command line where it shows the progress of everything and it doesn't just remove it. What is that, a special extension you have or a setting that you have for your terminal?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, it's just it is what I use as command line is commander. It's written CMDER.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And that has some nicer features than the default Windows Batch or PowerShell.
Gotcha.
It has some Unix-like key bindings. For example, ls will do that.
Right. I guess I work in Bash. If anything, I'll be using like Bash as my command line interface or whatever, but
me too. So what we have actually done is create an ESLint RC.
Okay.
And what we actually need is something, one more thing, which is the ESLint plugin for Jest. Because if we run ESLint now, it will say that in the app.test.js, you'll see that we have describe and it will say that describe and it are undefined.
Gotcha.
So we are going to npm i-d, what is it called? ESLint -plugin -jest, I think. Let's see if that works. It seems like it.
Yeah, it looks like it's working.
Then we'll go back to the ESLint.json or ESLint.js file. We will say that we want to use the plugin Jest. So are you in the ESLint rc.js file?
Oh, you know what? I don't think I can see that because I think it's get ignored.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Huh,
Maybe I
weird.
need to make the file, or it got created automatically, right? Let me see if I refresh this. Really. Oh, there it is. I got it now. Sorry, I just had to refresh my.
Yeah, that's some
panel.
limitation of live share, I think.
Cool.
So, and we want to actually have it extend the Jest configuration. So we will say plugin, was it Jest / So we are going to use the Airbnb base plugin, we are going to use the Jest recommended, and we are going to use the plugin Jest. That's what we are doing. And in the package JSON, now instead of just ESLint, we need to specify if we want to actually lint the files. Are you in the package JSON?
There we go.
Okay. That we want to run it in the current directory. Oh, sorry.
No
Need to
worries.
drink. Oh. We are going to write one more script, which is autofix.
All right.
So we will run npm lint which says that ESLint is not properly set up because in the JS file it's not the key plugin but plugins. So I just corrected that.
Gotcha.
So what I did is run from plugin to plugins.
Yep.
We'll run lint again, and it will say that it has found, I think, around 40 problems. Okay. So what we'll do is, because we don't want to fix them all manually, npm run lint : fix. So it auto-fixes all that are auto-fixable, and we should be left with, I think, 3 or 2 problems.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so we have in the, you can scroll up a bit, or do you see it? In app.js. So it says that in the parseInt, we don't have the radix parameter, which tells which base parseInt should be working in.
Right.
And we want base 10. We won't have binary numbers, we don't want hexadecimal, so base 10 it is. That fixed that errors, and it will say that it doesn't want a console statement in the index.js. Let's see what we're doing here. We are console logging the listening on port whatever. And the way we do that is by ESLint disable next line. And we don't want to disable all rules. We just want to disable the rule no console. And that way, if we run lint again, it should say that it has nothing to complain about.
Then it just returns nothing, so that means a good thing, right?
Yep, it's cool. Like if you have worked with Linux, no message is a good message.
Yep, no news is good news. Cool.
Yep. Let's go back to the README and yeah, we have added ESLint. That's what we did. And now we need to configure the Travis CI stages.
Okay.
So we go to the Travis CI travis.yaml.
Yep.
We are going to Here we are going to define the jobs we want to run. And these jobs will, that is one too many. We will include the jobs, which is stage test, which has the script. Well, which script do we want to run? We want to run test. And we want another that is also in the stage test, which is the script ntn1 lint. And then we go to the next stage, which is the deploy stage. And the script we actually want to skip. And we will just indent this.
Oh, cool.
And we don't actually need that on branch master anymore, because now we have defined all the jobs that are run, but we haven't defined the stages. So up here in the root of the YAML file, we will set up the stages, which are test, and then we will set up a deploy stage, and that will run if the branch equals master. So we will test on every branch and deploy if the branch is master.
Oh, cool. That makes sense.
And that's how we define our Travis CI YAML.
So
and,
I'm sorry. So the stage is basically saying that every time there's a commit or push to GitHub, that it's gonna run through and run and test and then lint everything that's pushed, and unless the branch is master, it is just gonna end there. But if the branch is being pushed to master, it's gonna go to the next stage, which is this deploy stage. Skip the script because we're just running everything in this deploy area and then taking care of it in there.
Yeah,
correctly. For deployment. So interesting. That's really neat to see how that's broken down like that. It really makes it like a very simplified task list, kind of like action list.
Yeah. We can make one small adjustment in the Travis YAML that I like to make.
Sure.
Just to make it a bit more, I think it's a bit more readable, because now what I have done is on the line 12, I just deleted the stage test, because we have defined here the stage test, and everything that is run under it will automatically be counted to the stage test. And then if we want to have the next stage, we will just say stage deploy and have our scripts here. And that way we can, it's a bit easier to read.
Cool.
That's what I think, instead of having a right stage in front of every job we have.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay, so we can git status. We have touched almost every file because we have added ESLint, which did change some things, because I normally write without the semicolon on the end of the file, because I am lazy and don't want to type that. And the Airbnb config just added that to the end of every line.
So is this little thing right here? I'm sorry, before we go any further, this dash in the job section for the Travis.yaml?
Yes, it is. So do you know how parsed?
No.
YAML is basically a nice wrapper for a JSON file.
Oh, okay.
So you can write valid JSON in YAML and it will work. So everything that is a dash and then has one space and then some value is an array. So we could write it like this.
Oh, I see. So how come this line right here is an array then? Or is that not meant to be there?
Because it's part of the jobs. So we have here an array of different things, an array of objects to be clear.
Yep.
So we could write it as stage is equal to test, and the script is npm1 lint. And then it would be the next entry in the array would be an object that just has script npm one test, or the other way around in our case. I mixed that two up. And
So
then we would have the deploy.
Yep. Oh, okay.
And all that in there.
Gotcha.
So this is just syntactic sugar to make it more readable instead of having all these extra curly braces and brackets.
All right. So
That's
is this hyphen right here for the npm run lint? Is this hyphen right here accurate, or is that not supposed to be there then?
It's accurate. It's a new job. So we have our jobs, and we have 3 jobs. And
okay. So that's an a start of a new entry.
Yep.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Okay. So we have adjusted many things. We can git add. Just still check if we are on track. Yes, we are.
Cool.
We are going to create a new commit, add linting, and we are going to push it to GitHub. Now we'll wait until it's pushed and Travis CI actually got working.
All right, we are building that on Travis CI right now. Alright. Okay, so I'm gonna... Where is this current? Let's...
So now you see that there are actually 3 jobs. All those that we have defined. The 2 test jobs as stage test and 1 deploy job. And you see that the deploy job is currently not doing anything, and it's waiting to until the tests have passed. So the tests need to be successful, and then deploy will start.
Okay. So it looks like the tests passed.
Yes. And then deployment will run, and we will see that we have actually a new deployment to intro to CI/CD.Now.SH.
Deploy. All right. Boom.
So the deploy job takes really long for some reason.
It's gotta install. I don't know. I'm such a noob when it comes to testing and stuff like this, so it's just like any guess is as good as guessed as the thing that I could come up with as the reason why it's taken so long.
Yeah, but we'll see that the tests are fairly fast, which is a good thing for CI, because you want to run the tests on every commit that you push.
So you want them to be snappy quick and not be waiting.
Yeah. So for our tests, we don't have actually too many files. We don't have too many tests. So they are expected to be fast. But as a general rule of thumb, at my professional workplace, I will try to hold all tests under 10 minutes, because that's barely acceptable if you push it.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a long time to be waiting.
Yeah, but if you have complete integration and end-to-end tests, it is justified to have it 10 minutes.
Yeah, oh, I could see that. It could 10 minutes to go through the whole process.
Yes.
Yeah.
So from building, we are using Docker quite yeah, we are using Docker for most of our applications. And building the image and running tests on it are a good amount of time. And the more tests we have, the longer it takes. And then we need to check which tests can be actually are redundant in some way, or how they could be refactored to take less time.
So always just trying to speed it up a little bit or see how you can improve efficiency.
Yeah. So we have unit tests and integration tests, which are fairly standard for every repository should have them.
Yep.
Unit tests are for single functions or single files to see if the file works correctly, and integration tests are for multiple components, if the connection between the classes or whatever are working correctly. And then we have end-to-end tests, which are usually based on the agile user stories.
Yeah.
So that, for example, if we have a web store, we want somebody to log in and put something in their shopping cart and then proceeding to checkout. And that would be one end-to-end test with everything. And we can have a wide variety of things we can check with just one test. We check if the layout is correct, that all the fields are responding, and that they throw no errors when doing the checkout process, which is really cool in end-to-end tests, because they have such a great great scope with just little tests.
Cool.
Okay, so the deploy pipeline is done.
Yep, and then I pulled it up. So let's just confirm that it's working one more time. So 1 + 4 = 5, and we're good to go.
Yep.
Cool. That's
so
super
we
dope.
Can now close all files. Just leave the README open and get to an end.
Oh. All right.
Okay, so
it's asking me if I want to save changes made to the app.test.js.
No. Nah, I don't care.
I don't know. Whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's look back at what we've done. We have written a simple Express API that sums to integers. We have written some tests with Jest and Supertest.
Yep.
We have pushed it to GitHub. We have configured Travis CI with the default configuration that runs the tests automatically. We have created the deploy stage that we can deploy it to Now.SH. And then we showed how to have multiple jobs running with the syntax in Travis CI. So I wanted to just show what else is there in the CI/CD landscape that we haven't done here. So one big thing is mocking a data source. So for example, if you have a MongoDB or just some SQL database running, you need some functions that mock the data that is there and just provides just that, but it needs to be configured. And that takes time and it's not the easiest thing there is. So this is it's a rabbit hole that goes deeper and deeper the more you look. But it's it's really cool if you finally pull it off and have a complete database mocked for your automated tests. What we haven't done are integration or end-to-end tests because they are not really fit for our little app.
Right.
And we talked about how those could be just a moment ago. One cool thing, I don't know if you've heard of it, semantic versioning.
Yeah.
So it is the versioning that is the in the x.y.z format.
Yep.
So we have the major version, we have the minor version, and the patched version. And patch would be just some bugs or security issues that have been released. The minor version would be a feature release that has been added. And every major version change is something that breaks. That is semantic versioning. And that the whole process of having semantic versioning could be completely manual or completely automated based on the commit messages. And that's something you could also go into. There's some projects.
Sorry.
Apology accepted. There's some projects one could look into. There is Git Semware. There is semantic release, I think it's called. Release. There is from OpenStack. It is called Reno. It is a release management and semantic versioning tool. And there are, I don't want to say hundreds of tools, but there's a handful of tools that is actually good and can do good. Yeah, that's one rabbit hole to go down into because release node management and versioning is something that all repositories need, but is usually hard to do.
Right.
Or to do right. We haven't gone into anything mobile, so there's the whole problem of mobile testing. How do I test native apps? There are some frameworks to do it that I think Mockium or Appium are interesting choices. Those are Selenium WebDrivers.
Okay.
Which can emulate a mobile device and run, for example, Vue Native, React Native, or even Swift C# code. Which is interesting is that these could also create screenshots that are on the App Store, and then the whole process of deploying to an App Store is something that is really interesting, because when you submit something to the App Store, it needs to be reviewed if it adheres to the App Store guidelines.
Yep.
And the whole thing to have it be automatic, if it works, it's really glorious, but getting it to work is just, it's difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. It'd be a lot of eggshells to jump over.
Yeah. So automatic rollbacks is something, if you remember in the beginning, the slide of DevOps.
Yep.
We have the monitoring stage of DevOps. And there could be some mechanism that checks if the app is working correctly. And if some bugs are happening just after the new version has been deployed, it should automatically roll back to the last version. Yep. To ensure that all functionality is still given. Which is a nice thing to have, but you don't actually need it that bad.
Yeah. Let's see. I could see that being a nice little fail-safe thing. So it's like, if something were to happen on the newest release, that would break your, whatever your code, then it would roll back to
if the tests are not extensive enough, it could happen even to the best developers that some things are not tested in the pipeline.
Right.
Because maybe the mocking of the database is not correct, or some weird user interaction thing is happening, or we haven't tested Internet Explorer 8 and some users want to use Internet Explorer 8 for some reason or the other. It's just it's just something that can be considered in a CI/CD pipeline.
Right. Cool. Interesting. Well, we're about, I don't know, an hour and 40 minutes into this so far. Is there anything else that you think that's pretty vital for somebody who's just getting into this stuff to keep in mind, or any like main caveats to watch out for, gotchas, or so to speak?
So just a bit above in the README, I have a section called Common Pitfalls.
Okay.
And so if you can go to line 48, yeah, that. There are some things that one needs to consider when starting out. So one of the things that is fairly common is choosing the wrong CI/CD product. So there are some trade-offs between complexity and the flexibility the tool provides. So, for example, you have Travis CI, which has really strong defaults and is fairly easy to use. But it, for example, I don't know a way to actually run mobile testing. And there other tools come in. For example, the GitLab CI is really strong, in my opinion. Or even Jenkins, which is really flexible, but getting into Jenkins or GitLab CI is just a bit more difficult because they have so many options to consider and to configure initially that it just most of the time it's not worth for most of the projects.
Right. Makes sense.
So there's this trade-off, and one needs to research which CI products are out there and which is the right one for me. And the next thing would be automating the wrong processes. So there's this great XKCD, how much time you should spend on automating it until it pays out. And it's something I keep in mind when doing things. There's how much time do you save? How often do you run the task? Is it, which is especially interesting, is it error prone when it's not automated? So is it a really complex task that needs to be done, and when typed in manually it leads to errors? Then it should be automated with a higher priority. But for some tasks or processes, it is even better to give a detailed documentation and instructions instead of trying to automate it.
Right.
Because automation is sometimes hard to consider, even if it has many branching paths. So if you get that that output, you should run that. If you get error output, you should run this first and then that. And trying to automate all that is it's really a hassle and not easy to do.
Yeah.
So having it done manually is sometimes the greater path to do things. But in general, if you are already using Agile, you should also do DevOps and CI/CD. And if you're not using Agile, you can still give it some kind of automation to run some tests automated and not testing everything manually.
Cool. Neat. All right, man. Well, I think this is a good spot to probably wrap things up for the project. I know that we're going to be able to have this project available to clone or whatever as a repo. and if anybody wants to check it out, they're more than welcome to. Anything else that we should cover?
Not from our side.
All right, cool. Well, I think that's gonna do it then for the project. Did we want to talk a little bit about the Coding Garden community app?
No, we could, yes, of course. So, do you want to do it?
I guess we could both just say a little bit about it. Basically, Semjon and I are on the planning team for the Coding Garden community app. So the Coding Garden is another YouTube live stream coding channel that has pretty nice following so far. CJ does a really good job of explaining and building a community around teaching JavaScript and web development. And his latest project is we're building a community app as a community for everybody to access information about the Coding Garden channel and all the good stuff that comes along with it. It's in the beginning stages so far of the project, and yeah, I don't know, I guess it was just a couple dozen guys that are interested in working on it so far, and always looking for more people to join up and spread the word about the project. Do you have any thoughts on it at all?
Yeah, so what we are trying to accomplish with that community app is to be a mobile native app, to have announcement, news, video lists of the past broadcasts, maybe even a schedule or some other features.
Yep.
And we are currently in the early planning phases, and we'll start to write some code in the following weeks, hopefully.
Yep.
And yeah, the reason we made this live stream with Travis CI and Now is because the backend for the Coding Garden app will be using exactly these technologies, and
Exactly.
It would be nice to, even I learned something configuring Travis CI just now, and it is a good exercise to have before the actual app that will be written.
Yeah, it would be a little bit more familiarized with the process and what's actually going on behind the scenes of the npm run test.
Yep.
So cool. Well, I am. What I'll do is, I think the link is actually already in the description of the video, but if not, I'll make sure to put it on there. So if you want to get involved, follow the link in the description. There is a link on that link to the Discord channel, Trello board, Google Drive, and the GitHub pages for the community, or the Coding Garden community app. And yeah, well said, well played. Thanks. I just wanted to say thank you to Semjon for staying up tonight. It's like super late over in Germany right now, but we wanted to get this done, and he's been really helpful and really informative about the Travis CI and CD in general. So thank you so much, Semjon, for coming on.
Yeah, we could have additional live streams about some other topics, for example, Agile and Scrum methodology, maybe even some advanced CI/CD, as I hinted at the end of this video, or even how to build a Docker image.
Yeah,
and having that one.
Cool. That would be really interesting. So, yeah, we'll definitely have to do another one very soon. I think we could even get on.
That would be cool.
A little bit bigger project. I'm thinking that if we're working on something during or for the Coding Garden community app, some pair programming on that would be pretty neat too. But
just to have
so
plus with one.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it again for the end of this session. Thanks again, Semjon, for coming on. And I will be with you in just a minute.
Yep.
I'm just going to
Thanks for
sign
having
off.
me.
Thank you again, Semjon, and you've been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of RabbitWerks live stream coding. And I just wanted to say thank you again to Semjon for staying up late and teaching us all about continuous integration, continuous deployment with Travis CI. And cool. So I'm going to be doing episode 2 of the Filterfy photo app live stream tomorrow night. It's going to be at 8:30, approximately 8:30. Central Time, so make sure to tune in on that. We're going to pick up where we left off. It's going to be a lot of fun. And cool. In the meantime, make sure to check me out on Instagram at RabbitWerks JavaScript or RabbitWerks.js, and then check us out on Twitter at RabbitWerks.js. And without anything else to do, have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night, all right? Take care.